What is going on, guys? For today's video I will show you the best Exsanguinate Mine Trickster build in Path of Exile 3.26. This build absolutely fulfills your fast-paced mapping fantasy, with explosive clear speed, smart mechanics and surprisingly solid survivability. If you ever wanted to feel like you're one step ahead of everything on the screen, freezing enemies in place and detonating the whole screen with a single button, then this is the build for you. This setup blends the raw clearing potential of Exsanguinate mines with the boss melting single target power of the Reap, which creates a combination that feels powerful across every single content in the game. Exsanguinate handles the mobs, so it gives us automatic screen-wide clears, but then when it comes to facing bosses like the Eater of the Worlds, then we just swap to the Reap and double down on our single target DPS. Overall, the setup is flexible, effective and very fun to play. If you are looking for this build's path of building, then click my link in the description. And before we continue, thanks to U4GM. They are a pro website that provides PoE1 boosting, items and even currency with a cheap price and fast delivery. They have over 17,000 positive comments and this website is really worth a try. So make sure to use my discount code KADE for extra 6% off. So let me give you a quick build overview. A lot of players still hesitate when it comes to builds with mines. Maybe you tried a miner a long time ago when the playstyle was clunky, or maybe you've seen people struggle with the throw speed and the awkward feel of the minefield support. But trust me, this is not that kind of miner setup. With the right build and a focus on mine throwing speed, you can get your throwing animation down to a silky smooth 0.25 seconds, which is equivalent of casting 4 times per second. It feels great, and on top of that, Detonate Mines is fully automated with the automation support gem. That means no manual detonation, no stopping to double tap, your mines will detonate as you move, which makes the gameplay feel closer to a traditional spellcaster than ever before. It's smooth, responsive, and perfect for players who love fast, fluid gameplay without giving up the damage. The early game starts with a Pyroclast mine, supported by the Charge Mine support, which gives us a solid damage support and synergizes beautifully with the Trickster's Ascendancies. You'll eventually want to swap to the Exsanguinate once you get your hands on the Crimson Sorrow gloves, which will convert your physical damage into cold. And that's where the build really starts to take the shape. Your clear speed will feel a little slower at first, but don't worry. As you gear up and increase your mine throwing speed, everything will quickly ramp up. It is one of those builds with a high skill ceiling, so even if it does not feel broken right away, trust the process. It scales incredibly well with even the moderate investment. While leveling, you can switch between cold penetration and the chain support depending on how your damage feels. If your DPS is high enough, then chain will help with spreading the clear speed. However, if not, then cold penetration will keep you shredding through the tougher packs. For your first 2 Void Stones, you can absolutely take down both the Searing Earth and the Eater of the Worlds. Just make sure to swap to the Reap for those fights to double your single target output. Your survivability during leveling will come from your sheer ability to delete enemies before they get even a chance to retaliate. Around level 28, you will switch from the Explosive Trap to the Pyroclast Mine and use your passive refunds to respec out of the early trap nodes, like Expeditious Munitions and etc. So then grab the Blast Waves instead, and make sure to allocate Detonate the Mines is triggered while moving, which will give us a hands-free gameplay. It's important that during this process you start leveling Exsanguinate and Reap in your weapon swap, or spare the sockets. That way, by the time you're ready to use them, you aren't stuck using underlevel gems. Next up, let's go over the Ascendancy. First, you want Swift Killer, which provides frenzy and power charges that directly enhance your clear speed and the boss damage. With the Charge Mine support, you will generate these charges just by throwing the mines, so it's effortless to maintain them. Then next, one step ahead will add another layer of utility and control by speeding you up and slowing the enemies down. That 8% action speed boost will affect everything from the mine throwing to the movement and the shield charge. Then there's the Polymath, which gives us a solid damage multiplier based on how many different masteries you've taken. This build will naturally take plenty, so you get a free boost to your output plus recovery on kill for life and energy shield and even mana. Overall, it smooths out the gameplay and adds the extra sustain during the map clears. And finally, we use Escape Artist, which is your defensive cornerstone. It scales your evasion and the energy shield together based on your gear, so running hybrid bases like the Sadist Garb will really pay off. Then as for the skill tree, your offensive scaling focuses on increasing skill damage levels, especially the physical spell damage. Then as for the skill tree, your offensive scaling focuses on increased skill gem levels, as well as the normal spell gems, cold gems, mine gems, and even the critical multipliers. Cold conversion will turn Exsanguinate from a spiky physical skill into a freezing wave of destruction, and we can get that via the Crim Sorrow early and Conversation Gloves via the Cold Mastery later on. Defensively, we stack multiple layers to avoid hits in the first place. With gear, flasks, and Grey Sorrow, your evasion change will climb significantly. And when you reach 87% chance to evade, a Grey Watcher's Eye with that 8% chance to evade will push you up to the 95% cap, which effectively will have the number of attacks that land compared to 90% evasion. Then Storm Shroud is another huge boost, granting full elemental element avoidance as long as you're immune to the shock. And that's not to mention the spell suppression, which is nearly capped just from the passive clusters, by cutting the spell damage in half. And then finally we have Ghost Dance, which is the icing on the cake, by giving you energy shield recovery every time that you get hit, meaning that you have a cushion even when something does manage to land a blow. Next, let's take a look at our skill gems. Your core setup revolves around the main skill, which is either way the Exsanguinate or the Reap, which of course depends on your preference and when you swap them. Both scale incredibly well with the mines, and both work with the same support gem structure, so you don't need to change much to switch between them. You'll be linking them to the high impact mine support, which is a key piece of the puzzle. This not only boosts your damage significantly, but it also makes your mines detonate faster and more reliably. Alongside that, you will run the trap and the mine damage support, which gives you a massive flat DPS multiplier. Then there's the Swift Assembly, which increases the number of the mines you throw, and your chance to throw the extra mines, which is a big boost to both the single target and the pack clearing. Then Empower Support or increased critical damage will round out your links depending on your gear level. Empower is a bit more investment heavy, but scales beautifully into the late game when you've got levels and gear sorted out. For Curse and Utility, Assassin's Mark is the main one. It massively increases your crit chance and the crit multi against marked enemies, which is crucial for pushing your boss damage over the top. Next we have gear. After finishing the campaign, you will hit a power wall, unless you start upgrading. This is where your economy management will start to matter. Use your Chaos Orbs, don't just hoard them, and start picking up better items from the trade site or crafting them yourself. You will feel a massive difference with a few smart purchases. Escape Artist will work best with the Hybrid Evasion and the Energy Shield gear, so look for Status Garb or other evasion bases with a solid life and resistant rolls. Don't be afraid of the cheaper item bases early, because functionality will beat aesthetics at this stage. So try to prioritize items with the spell suppression, life, and the elemental resistances, especially as you start approaching the red maps. The Crim Sorrow will get you going, but you will eventually want rare gloves, with full physical to cold conversion by using the Cold Mastery on the passive tree, and high resistances to cap out your defenses. Then the Heat Shiver is another important pick. It will massively boost your damage against frozen enemies, which we will be doing all the time thanks to the cold damage and the crit scaling. With strong crits, you will be freezing bosses long enough to melt them in return. You can also look for a double influence helmet with nearby enemies taking increased cold damage, or +1 to Sacred Gems if you want a strong rare helmet alternative. And then as for Mercenaries, here we have flexibility depending on what you're lacking. The Fallen Reverend is great all-rounder, granting Zelatory and the Battle Mage Cry, or that extra crit and the spell damage. Then the rune crafts like the Sinistral will make your shield charge even feel faster, while the Fortress craft will give defensive utility if your attribute requirements are under control. Then gear-wise, try to get a Leer Cast or rare helmet with resistances, gloves with the elemental weakness on hit, and rings with a frostbite or they are just damning. Then Camus Binding or the Pyroshock clasp belts are great. And then an amulet like the Perkle Stow with the Whispers of the Doom or the Shaper's Seed with a +1 curse can round out your mercenary nicely. And most importantly, don't forget to cap those resistances. Next up we have gameplay, and in practice, our playstyle loop is clean and effective, so start by shield charging into the packs, then let your mines auto-detonate and then move on. You need to trust the build's ability to one-shot full screens, and avoid unnecessary overcasting, because the faster you move, the more value you can extract per map. For bosses, we want to swap to the Reap and focus on maximizing uptime, while keeping your charges up. The Reap's reliable damage will make the Pinnacle and Uber fights far more easier. Then in low investment maps, don't feel pressure to clear 100%. Just hit the main paths, kill everything in the sight and keep moving, because that's how you maximize currency per hour with this build. And when you push into the higher tier maps or the boss content, then the Reap will give you the power that you need to stay competitive. So overall, keep your flasks up, dodge the telegraph abilities, and let the build's natural speed carry you through the endgame. And now, last but not least, let me tell you a few tips and tricks to keep in mind. If you're wondering when to swap from the Pyro class to the Exsanguinate, then the best time is right after the campaign, once you've got the Crim Sorrow, Kikazaru, and ideally the Heat Shiver with a 5 link. If your damage feels lacking, then use Reap until you can upgrade further. For attributes, make sure that you're getting enough strength and dexterity, so use plus 30 nodes or look for stats for your belt, rings, and the amulet. Essences of the Rage or the Sorrow are perfect for crafting these. Mana-wise, remember that Exsanguinate will cast Life to reserve when supported by the high impact mine, so Kikazaru's regen will keep you sustained. Also, don't overlevel Frostblink to keep its mana cost manageable. And finally, if reservation is tight, then drop the Skitter boots temporarily until you can hit your next efficient threshold. So let me know what you think about this build in the comments below. If you enjoyed this, then you definitely don't want to miss my previous top 5 best builds video, where I showed even more powerful builds. So click the screen now and I'll see you in the next one.